Welcome everyone to the final session of Optimize 24. My name is Chloe Norwood. I am the Field Marketing Specialist here at Visible Thread. We will be taking questions at the end of this session, so make sure to submit any questions you may have to the Q&A box on your screen. And as always, all recordings and slides of today's event will be sent out after the event ends. This session will cover the bid professional's dilemma, choosing the right technology in a crowded market. And last but certainly not least, please welcome our speaker, Chris Basilla, CEO and Managing Director at Hovester Advisory Group.
Thank you, Chloe. Thanks for the introduction. I'm Chris Basilla. Quick introduction, CEO of Hovester Advisory Group. My bio is at the end, so I won't spend too much time talking about myself. There's far more interesting things to talk about today. So we have an agenda for today, but before we start, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by the sheer number of RFP tools flooding the market? Well, today's session is all about tackling that problem. So today what we'll do is we'll look at the evolution of the RFP technology, and then we'll look at the challenge for bid professionals in a crowded market. What does that mean? And obviously, we will talk about the solution and a roadmap to kind of navigate this process as with least pain as possible. And we look at the key steps to follow if you'd like to, if you're for selecting a tool. We'll do a quick recap, and then we'll leave time, as Chloe mentioned, towards the end for Q&A. So the evolution of the market. How did we get here? Let me start by sharing a personal story about how I got here. About a year ago, one of my biggest clients reached out with a challenge. They wanted me to help them find a generative AI solution for their bids and proposal function. Sounds simple, right? Just pick the best tool and move on. But as I soon discovered, it was anything but simple. One of the reasons they reached out to me is because I'm vendor neutral. They don't want a sales pitch or recommendation influenced by partnership. They want an honest broker, someone who can evaluate the options objectively and guide them to the right solutions based on their needs. That's when I went on what I call right now my RFP tech journey. Over the course of the several months, I sat through more than 100 demos and just as many discovery calls. I logged over 500 hours researching, analyzing, and comparing tools. And let me tell you, it was harder than I expected. The sheer number of vendors out there is overwhelming, but that wasn't even the hardest part. You see, each vendor claimed to be the best. So I had to dig deeper to truly understand their technology, the capabilities, the limitations, and most importantly, how those tools could translate into real business value. Through this process, I developed a skill set I didn't anticipate. I learned how to translate technical jargon into practical solution and align those solutions with real-world challenges my clients faced, and then ask vendors the tough, probing questions to separate hype from reality. Today, I'm here to share what I learned so you get the lessons without the scars. And while this journey was personal, it's part of a much larger story. You see, the RFP software market, as you see on the slide, has undergone a significant evolution over the past 20 years. And that has shaped the challenges we face today. In the late 90s and early 2000s, the focus was on content management, organizing and managing reusable content to make it easier for proposal teams to access information. And around the early 2000s, the market shifted towards response management. This was about automating repetitive tasks and improving collaboration, helping teams respond to higher volume of bids more efficiently. And then between 2010 and 2022, the focus expanded to workflow automation, which is a fancy way of saying coordinating tasks and automating workflows. This era built on earlier advancement, but remained limited to low complexity, high volume bids. And the conventional wisdom said that automating complex bids was simply too difficult. Then in 2022, everything's changed. large language models like generative AI emerged, bringing new capabilities. And that they could generate long-form content, enhance existing content, and perform knowledge discovery from content library. I call this era workflow orchestration because it unlocks dynamic process management, content creation, and enhancement, capabilities that finally make automation viable for complex bids like those in government contracting. And while this evolution in technology has been innovative and exciting, unlocking those new possibilities for complex bid, it's also created a significant challenge, and that is an overcrowded and fragmented market. With so many vendors and tools vying for attention, choosing the right solution has become harder than ever. Let's dive into this problem. Again, let me take you back to June of this year at the annual Bids and Proposal Conference in New Orleans. The exhibition hall was packed with vendors, all eager to showcase their tools. Every single booth seemed to promise the same thing. Our tool would revolutionize the bids and proposal industry. So I walked through the hall, intrigued, but also overwhelmed. Everywhere I turned, I heard the same pitch in slightly different packaging. And when I talked to other participants, there was a clear consensus. There are way too many tools out there. We don't know which one does what or which one is right for our team. That moment really captured the reality of the market today. Too many options and too little clarity. Take a look at the slide that I put together. Each logo you see here represents a vendor in the RFP response automation market. And here's the thing, this isn't even a comprehensive list. New vendors are entering the market every single week. Why, you might ask? Well, because the barriers to entry are low. And advancement in generative AI have made it easier for new tools to flood the market, creating an explosion of options. This has made the market feel more crowded and more overwhelming every day. And so as professionals trying to select the right tool, this creates a real challenge. How do you cut through this overwhelming number of options? How do you make sense of what's available, what's credible, and what's aligned with your needs? How do you separate the signal from the noise? This is the challenge we face in today's market. A rapidly growing landscape that's harder and harder to navigate. And it's not just the sheer number of vendors that's the problem. Let's explore in the next slides the specific complexity and pain point that make choosing the right solution such a difficult task. So why choosing the right tool is so challenging? I want to zoom in on three key challenges here that I want to highlight. First is the complexity of vendor selection. You see, the RFP software market is highly fragmented niche, with countless vendors offering tools that on the surface seem very similar. They all promise in some way to improve efficiency, save time, and increase win rate. But the reality is that without deep knowledge of the market and these tools' capabilities, it's really nearly impossible to identify which solution truly aligns with your needs. This isn't just about comparing features. It's about understanding how the features translate into value for your organization. Second, even if you set out to conduct an internal evaluation, it's not a quick or easy process. An in-depth assessment requires significant time and resources, hundreds of hours spent in demos, discovery calls, and comparing tools. And unlike booking a vacation where you have platforms like Kayaks, that lets you search and compare options quickly, there isn't a similar solution yet for evaluating RFP tools. So for many organizations, this creates delays in optimizing their bid function. And even that means missing out on better opportunities while they are stuck in the evaluation stage. I see that all the time. And third, there's also the risk of getting it wrong, because choosing a tool that doesn't align with your needs can lead to operational inefficiencies, frustrated teams, and increased cost. And worse yet, it can negatively impact your bid process, causing you to miss deadlines or fail to deliver compelling proposals. The stakes are high, and the margins for error is low. So remember the three challenges I just mentioned here. These are very important to keep in mind. So there's the complexity, there's the resource demands, and the cost of making mistakes. And so addressing these issues head on will ensure your organization selects the right RFP tool and improves your bid processes. So now that we've explored the challenges of vendor selection, let's focus on the solution. The key to navigating this crowded and fragmented market is having a systematic roadmap. That means a step-by-step approach that ensures you make the right decision effectively and efficiently. So this roadmap has 4 critical elements, each designed to simplify the process and align the tools you select with your organizational needs. The first is to define and clarify your AI ambition. So what I ask you here is to start with the end in mind. What does success look like for your organization? Get clarity on what you want to achieve with AI, whether that's automating tasks, generating insights, enhancing your processes, or improving your bid strategy. Because defining your ambition ensures you stay focused on tools that align with your long-term strategic goals. Next, I would say map out both your functional and non-functional requirements. This includes the features you need to support your process and the broader criteria like scalability, integration, ease of use, and so on. Additionally, I think we need to think about the budget, right? This is always something that comes up. But while creating a budget is important, it shouldn't be done in isolation. So having a placeholder budget is a good starting point, but it's also critical to build a business case that clearly articulates the return on investment. So for example, let's take an example. If you're requesting $20,000 from your CFO, this is really meaningless if you don't tie it to tangible benefits like efficiency gain, increased revenue, higher win rates, cost avoidance, happier employees. There's something that needs to be tangible that you can demonstrate. So defining your requirements and justifying the investment upfront helps you avoid being swayed by unnecessary bells and whistles. The next step is to research and segment the market. So with your goals and requirements in place, you can dive into the market. Instead of treating all vendors equally, segment them based on the criteria that help you quickly discard many vendors. So this is, a process of elimination. So for example, tools that don't meet your critical requirements or those without even proven track records can be filtered out early. We'll look at an example of this segmentation shortly, just to show you how this comes together a little bit. And finally, now that you have a short list of vendors, you need to evaluate them based on their alignment with your defined goals and requirements. This is where you'll conduct demos, compare capabilities, prices, and ultimately select the best fit solution for your organization. And so over the next few slides, I'll break each of these 4 steps further to show you how to apply them effectively. So choosing the right tool starts with clarity. But instead of looking at the market and trying to match tools to your business, flip the process. Focus on defining your specific goals and challenges first. This AI opportunity map provides a structured way to do this with 2 critical layers. The first layer helps you define your overall ambition, whether that's task automation, insight generation, process enhancement, or strategy enablement. The second layer dives deeper into the specific use cases within each ambition, helping you to identify the areas where you need to spend you need the most support. So by working through these 2 layers, you can align your tool selection with your highest priorities and ensure you're focusing on the solution that truly meets your needs. So let's look at the different quadrants here. So task automation, the right side. This focuses on automating repetitive tasks to save time and reduce manual effort. So in the top right quadrant, we see example like statement of works, building compliance matrices, drafting executive summaries, or managing past performances. These are really the building blocks of your proposals, and AI can handle these efficiently so your team can focus on higher value work. Then we can look at insight generation on the left, which really focuses on providing actionable intelligence to improve decision making. So the top left quadrant you see here, we have use cases like bid no bid decisions, win probability modeling, and pricing optimization. Here, AI helps you make smarter decisions by generating insights from data that you would otherwise take significant time to analyze. At the top of the map, the focus is on improving the efficiency of your overall processes. AI here helps your teams to work faster and more efficiently, helping them to optimize workflows and address pain points that hinder productivity. And at the bottom of the map, the focus shifts to enhancing your strategic approach. In the bottom left quadrant, we have use cases like customer intelligence, SWOT analysis, competitive intelligence, all key elements in crafting winning strategies. Similarly, if you see on the bottom right quadrant, AI helps with proposal plans, extracting win themes, and identifying key messages that would really resonate with your evaluator. But just to be very clear, generative AI cannot do all of these things. This is why it's so important to understand the underlying technologies, capabilities, and limitations. So the real power of this map is that it allows you to see where your organization's greatest pain points or needs are before even considering an AI automation tool. And a good starting point for you is to review, for example, lessons learned and client, win-loss analysis to uncover these recurring challenges or areas of improvement. These insights can highlight whether you're struggling with repetitive, time-consuming tasks, where your ambition might focus on task automation, or with gathering intelligence and crafting a stronger strategy, which could point towards insight generation or strategy enablement as the right place to start. So defining your ambition ensures you're not trying to solve every problem at once. It gives you clarity and focus so you can align your investment with your most pressing needs and long-term goals. Then we talk about defining your requirements. So once you've defined your AI ambitions and identified the areas where you need the most support, the next step is to define your requirement. This is critical because it helps you evaluate tools objectively and ensures that you choose the one that aligns with your specific needs. And so when we talk about requirements, they come in different shapes and colors, but here, two broad categories that we can use are functional and non-functional requirements. So functional requirements are the features and capabilities the tool must perform the specific task. For example, if you're focused on automating compliance documents, a functional requirement might be the ability to generate a compliance matrix directly from your content library. Or if you need insight, you might look for a tool to predict win probability or generate competitive intelligence analysis. So functional requirements ensure that the tool has the technical capability to meet your operational goals. Non-functional requirements, on the other hand, define how the tool operates and integrates with your broader system. So an example for that would be, and there are many here, I just put a couple, but you have, for example, scalability. Will this tool grow with your organization as your needs evolve? You have multiple users, more people working on proposals. Integration, can it seamlessly connect with your CRM, content library, or existing platform? The ease of use, so how quickly can your team learn and adopt this tool without significant disruption? So these non-functional requirements ensure that the tool doesn't just work, but works well within the context of your organization, right? So by clearly identifying both types of requirements, you create a framework to evaluate vendors more systematically. So instead of being swayed by flashy features, you'll focus on whether the tool can deliver both the outcomes you need and the experience your team requires. Next, I said we'll take an example of segmenting the market. So once we've defined our requirement, the next step is to research the market and segment it in a way that helps you make sense of the overwhelming number of vendors. So without the structured approach to segmentation, it's really easy to get lost in the noise. So what are we trying to do here? Let's be clear for this step. The goal of segmentation is simple. You want to break down the market into manageable groups based on specific, meaningful criteria. So by doing this, you can quickly filter out tools that don't meet your needs and focus your efforts on those that are best fit. Let's look at an example of a segmentation using a 2x2 matrix. That's pretty classic, right? So on the x-axis, we have content generation, ranging from tools designed for long-form content. What I mean by along that is like executive summaries or technical narratives. And on the other side, you have the short form content like due diligence and security questionnaires, what we call Q&A pairings, right? So this is the x-axis. On the y-axis, we can juxtapose response tools, which specialize in specific tasks, like, for example, content generation, against end-to-end platform, which cover the entire bit lifecycle from capture to submission. So by plotting vendors on these quadrants, you can immediately see where they fit. For example, on the top right, you have tools that are ideal for teams that need robust solutions, capable of handling complex narratives across the entire proposal process. On the bottom right, you have tools that focus on specific content challenges like generating technical solutions or executive summaries. At the bottom left, you have platforms that cater to high volume, low complexity bids where task automation is the priority. These platforms are particularly useful when you need a collaborative environment with many stakeholders and SME involved in the process. And on the bottom left, these are best suited for automating routine, high frequency tasks like DDQ and security questionnaires for smaller teams. So what does this segmentation do? It does really two things, right? The first one is it allows you to quickly eliminate vendors that don't align with your core needs. For example, if you're focused on long-form content generation, like we do in GovCon, and required end-to-end platform, you can discard tools in other quadrants. It also helps you prioritize your evaluations, ensuring you spend time on vendors that are the most likely to meet your requirements. So in a nutshell, this structured approach reduces the time and effort needed to evaluate the market and helps you confidently make decisions. The last step is shortlist and selecting vendors. So I'll spend a bit of time talking about this because I think it's very important and sometimes it's overlooked. So after segmenting the market, the next final step is this shortlisting. So this is critical because it ensures that you don't just choose a tool that fits your need on paper, but also one that delivers value in practice. So if the segmentation process has been done correctly, you should find yourself with only 2 or 3 options typically, right? At this stage, the focus shifts from narrowing the field to conducting proper due diligence to validate your decision. Why is this important? As we said earlier, the RFP process, the RFP software market is crowded with vendors, many of which are relatively new entrants. And while some of these companies may offer innovative tools, not all of them will have the credibility, market understanding, or staying power you need. As the market naturally consolidates over the coming years, weaker vendors are likely to disappear, potentially leaving you and your team without the support and updates you rely on. This makes due diligence essential. And part of this due diligence involves evaluating vendors through demos, but also very importantly, asking questions and asking the right questions. So here I'll share with you 5 questions that I believe were critical and they helped me a lot when I did the evaluation of different vendors. The first one is the vendor's reputation. I would strongly urge you and suggest that to research the vendor's track record in the market. Have they established themselves as a reliable player, or are they relatively untested? That's important. There's a risk element there that you need to keep in mind. The second one is, can they provide testimonials or case studies from other clients? So you look for evidence that the vendor has successfully worked with organizations similar to yours. This demonstrates both credibility and relevance. And once you've shortlisted, ask if you can speak directly to their clients. Don't be shy. Hearing those firsthand, hearing this firsthand about their experience can provide deeper insight into the vendor's strengths, weaknesses, and overall reliability. The third one is ask them if they offer a trial period. And trial period really allows your team to test the tool in real-world environment and ensures that it aligns with your workflows. That's important. That's, in an operational environment, you want to make sure this works for you. Number 4, I usually ask if the founder or leadership team have relevant experience. So what I mean by that is, like, you need to investigate the founder, if the founder has a strong background in building tech companies or direct experience in bids and proposals. This can be a very good leading indicator of their understanding of your challenges and the ability to deliver effective solutions. Number 5, last, what's the vendor's roadmap for future development? So understanding their long-term vision can help you determine if the tool will remain relevant as your organization grows and evolves. So you want to make sure you have an alignment between their development plan and where your company is going in terms of bids and proposals and the needs in the future. Also, I would say that you need to pay close attention during the demos. These are not just opportunities to see the tool in action, but also it's your opportunity to evaluate the vendor's responsiveness, expertise, and understanding of your industry. And also pay attention to who is delivering the demo. If it's a salesperson who lacks the expertise to answer in-depth Q&As or has never worked in proposal, that can be a red flag. I think a good vendor will not only show you the features, but also demonstrate how these features solve your specific challenges and integrate seamlessly into your workflows. By the end of the step, you should feel confident that the vendor you choose is credible, aligns with your requirements, and has the staying power to support your organization long-term. All right, we're coming to the end here, so let's do a recap and let's bring all this together. We start by looking at the RFP software market, how it evolved very quickly with really exciting innovations for us, but also a lot of noise. Then we got real about the challenges of an overcrowded market. And it's not just the number of vendors, though that's a lot. It's also the time and effort it takes to figure out what works for your team and what doesn't. But there's a good news. I share with you a clear process to save you a lot of time into this roadmap that I laid out, the 4-step, which is defining your AI ambition, defining your requirement, researching and segmenting the market. This step is very, very important because it's really going to save you a lot of time to do the segmentation and leaving yourself with only 2 or 3 options as opposed to looking at every vendor that comes knocking on your door. And finally, we talked about due diligence, checking the reputation, asking for client testimonials. Those are all very important to making an investment, not only for the tool, but also for your organization. There's a lot of implications for your team. So, this process will save you a huge amount of time, but let's be honest, there's still a lot of work for you to do. And, evaluating tools, asking the right questions, and making the final decision takes focus and effort. That's where I think seeking outside help can help you make, it can make a meaningful difference. External experts bring, deep market knowledge and proven frameworks, helping you to shorten the selection cycle, reduce the effort, and increase your likelihood of success. At the end of the day, I'll close with this. This isn't just about choosing a tool. It's about setting your team up for success, both now and as the market evolves. On that, I want to thank you for your time today and to explore this roadmap with me. If you'd like to discuss these framework, or challenges in vendor selection for more, happy to help. Let's connect. And I'll open the floor for any questions, Chloe. If people have questions, I'd love to make this interactive. I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, so we do have pretty much like a 2-part question. So kind of the first part of it is, are there consultants that specialize in helping organizations navigate the sea of tools and make selections? And with that being said, is there any advantage, like time or money savings, to hiring a consultant to help in the selection process? Or is this something most organizations can do themselves?
Yeah, thanks for the question. This is a really good question. So the first part is I would say there's less than a handful of consultants that do this work. They know exactly what's going on. I myself help clients. Part of the services I offer, I didn't introduce myself fully, but you can see that at the end. I do help clients find the right tools and help them with the implementation as well. So that's the service I give, but I'm sure there's a few other capable consultants out there happy to connect and talk about that. Now, the second part of the question is, should you do it internally or you should do it externally? My estimation is that, it took me about 400 or 500 hours to get this together. Even if you streamline it, you're probably going to spend, if you want to do this properly, about 200 hours. So, ask yourself, is it worth it to do it internally? Because there's also this whole notion of understanding the technology, the capabilities, the limitation. It's a very long process. So, on the balance of things, I think you'd be served to go with outside consultants. They would reduce what would otherwise be a few months to maybe 1 week or less of discovering the right tool. So I think it's worth it. That's, maybe I'm biased, but definitely, the clients that I serve, they're very happy with this approach because it really helps them cut through the noise and having an independent voice because, I think it's having an objective point of view about their organization. So that's that's the answer to that.
Okay, we do. So I do have a few more questions coming in we can cover really quickly. So kind of to piggyback off of that, this comment says, I've heard in other forums a lot of conversation about I would assume ChatGPT and Copilot. Are those the same things as the tools you're talking about?
Yeah, good question. So, the easiest way to think about Copilot and ChatGPT, those are not specialized tools. So, Copilot specifically is a general productivity tool by Microsoft. It helps you, summarize emails, or, really helps you save a few minutes here and there. It's useful, but it's not specific for bids and proposals. So, it doesn't cost you much, but it also, in terms of capability, like on 1 to 10, it's probably like it could do 1 or 2 out of 10. Whereas these specialized tools, I've experienced, for example, VT's product. They're really excellent at compliance matrix and shredding. It would save me a week of work if I want to do that myself. So, it's really kind of comparing apples and oranges from a capability perspective. But everybody throws, ChatGPT and they get excited about Copilot. But I think you need to understand, the capabilities and the limitations of those. So one is a highly specialized tools, and the other one is a very general tool, I would say.
And one last question: how would you advise to manage the change management to adopt an AI tool for proposals?
Wow, that's a loaded question. That's a loaded question, and I love this question because. We talk a lot about tools, but AI is not about tools. It's actually about people, and the success of this is all about change management, and it's about upskilling and training your people. That's very important. It's about also looking at your processes and workflow and revisiting those, because those are the old ways of doing things are not going to work. It's also having good data hygiene, which means AI is going to only pull from the current content that you have. But if your data is no good, it's like garbage in and garbage out. So you need to look at the deployment strategy, the training, your data, the governance. There's a lot of elements. This is a very good and loaded question, but in summary, I think it starts with people. It's about how you get people to get excited about this technology, because we know by now it's not replacing anybody. This is an augmentation, and I think training and upskilling just is high up on my radar, I would say.
Perfect. And Chris, do you have any final parting words before we close out the session?
Well, just thanks for this invitation. I was really excited to talk about a topic that's very passionate. And if people want to connect with me and talk about this any further, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I'm very active. You can connect, and I'm easy to reach. Love to talk about this some more. And thanks for the opportunity. It's been great.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Chris, for sharing your expertise. Thank you to everybody who attended this session. If you've been with us since 9 o'clock this morning, this was a bit of a marathon, but this session, our final session, will close out Optimize 24. If all of you could please fill out this survey on the right side of your screen, give Chris and I some feedback on this session. We would really appreciate that. As always, the slides and recordings from the entire day, every single session, they will be available on our website soon. Some from earlier in the day are already available, so you can go ahead and check those out now if you missed them. And thanks again, everybody, and I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon, evening.
Thanks, Chloe. Thank you.